Sasha Banks and Naomi have been indefinitely suspended by the WWE in a move that will lock their contracts, freeze their remaining time, and potentially keep them from any outside activities unless they get back in line with the WWE, do as they're told, and toe the company line. This is a move that will affect a lot of people backstage in WWE, so we're going to dive into that right now. Be sure to hit like, subscribe for further updates as it develops, hopefully some better news going forwards as well. But in the meantime, let's examine what this means going forwards. Now, this is a statement that was read out by Michael Cole live on SmackDown. It was scripted and planned out by Vince McMahon himself and passed to Michael Cole. Pat McAfee said nothing during this, seemed like he wanted nothing to do with it. That's just the impression that I got there. When it comes to the WWE, there were a number of discussions over the course of today as to how best to proceed and what to actually do in place of this. Storyline wise, they have decided to keep the Women's Tag Team Championships. There will be a tournament that will undoubtedly feature at least the one tag team they currently have on the main roster. And hopefully more. I don't know how they're going to work that out. The big questions for me are basically based on the fact that this was a suspension, not a firing. In many ways, a suspension, particularly an indefinite one, is worse than a firing. Because if Sasha Banks and Naomi were fired, they could go to other companies. They could sit at home. There are definite questions that we need to ask because this particular suspension could, depending on the wording of her contract, prevent Sasha Banks from filming any further work for The Mandalorian without a breach of contract and a lawsuit in her near future. Essentially, this locks Sasha Banks and Naomi into one single course trajectory. Either they come back, eat crow, apologize if need be, and do what they're told, or their contracts will be frozen and they will be unable to leave the WWE. They will be unpaid, but they will be unable to seek employment elsewhere. This creates a dangerous precedent because this was not just a message to Sasha Banks and Naomi. This was a message to everyone else in the company. It came right before a match between the Usos and RK Bro for the undisputed tag team championships. They ended potentially and ostensibly standing tall, but how many people in that locker room are going to be affected by the simple fact that Vince McMahon has made it clear, if you do not exactly toe the company line, you will be punished heavily. The original statement released by the WWE on Monday was originally shared with wrestling journalists. When it didn't get the mainstream attention that the WWE were looking for, it went wider, out via WWE.com, out to places like TMZ, the E! Network, and so on and so forth. This in many ways is limiting the options of not just Sasha Banks and Naomi, but everyone in the WWE, letting them know that Vince McMahon will do as Vince McMahon wants. Frustration has been building in the WWE for a while. You look at what happened with Mustafa Ali. Everything that happened there was an element of someone who wanted to leave and the WWE said no. Now, they were willing to allow, for example, Tony Storm to leave, but not Ali, not Sasha Banks, not Naomi. There are, of course, rumours going around at the moment that Sasha Banks and Naomi only have 2 months left on their contract. Now, if they choose to return soon, they could potentially work that last 2 months. But if they're being buried this heavily now, you just wait until they come back and see how heavily they are buried then. This was burning bridges. This was scorched earth. This will make anyone considering joining the WWE potentially reconsider, and this will make those people who are already there potentially reconsider. This will have wider ranging ramifications that we have not yet seen. Please be sure to hit like, and subscribe to the channel for more breaking news as it develops. Until then, what I'll say is, I've been Tom Colohue. This has been Spoiler Warning Breaking News, and I really do hope that the next news video that I put out for you is at least a little bit more positive. Thank you, everyone, and good night.